Welcome to Tech-Challenged Makers Conquer Ecommerce. I'm Elise, your resident tech expert and author of the book Browser versus Buyer. I've worked with e-commerce shop owners for over 6 years, and I've helped hundreds of creatives overcome their technology fears. Gain clarity and direction in your business with Elise's e-commerce elevator 6-month group coaching program. Join now at myscheduledbiz.com/elevator. The link is in the show notes. Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking with Teddy Besna from Searchlight Digital. She is a digital marketing and SEO professional who is passionate about helping businesses achieve new levels of online exposure and scalable growth. As the founder of Searchlight Digital, she has extensive knowledge in search engine optimization and content and helps develop customized digital marketing strategies that improve a business's online presence. But this is the thing that I love about Teddy. She focuses on educating and empowering her clients to help take the overwhelm out of SEO without adding another thing to your to-do list. So this is the thing, this is why she's here, because she's going to help you with SEO without overwhelming you. Now, by the end of this episode, you're going to understand why SEO, search engine optimization, for those of you who don't know, is so important to help attract, engage, and convert your shoppers into purchasers. We're also going to be talking about the technology you need, and you're going to walk away with one action step when we are all done. So Teddy, I am really, really glad you're here with us today to share your expertise, especially since I know that we're both so passionate about analytics. So please tell us a little about your business and your experience with e-commerce.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. So my business, Searchlight Digital, specializes in search engine optimization and content strategies, including blog content, resource pages, collections, landing pages, things that really help to connect the right user with the businesses that we work with. And we've worked with a considerable number of makers and e-commerce businesses, especially since around early to mid 2020, when a lot of people who were considering entrepreneurship, maybe people who had some extra time on their hands, really decided to take the leap and either pivot their businesses online or launch a new business through e-commerce. So we've been working hand in hand with makers, product sellers, service-based businesses as well, but a lot of e-commerce businesses since 2020 and well, of course, into 2022.
All right, awesome. So we're really glad to have you here. So I'm just going to get right down into it. This is the question that everyone wants to know, right? Why is SEO, search engine optimization, so important to an e-commerce maker?
Well, search engine optimization, in my opinion, is a foundational marketing activity because it really does take the technical strength of your website, along with making sure that you're creating content and using words that really align and connect with your ideal audience. And so by doing search engine optimization on your website, you're improving the experience of people who are coming to your site and engaging with you regardless of the platform. So whether they're coming from social media or your email marketing, everyone has a better experience if your website is optimized. Of course, for makers as well, we're wanting to make sure that we can cast the net as wide as possible, reach new audiences and new consumers who are looking for what you're selling without being tied to paid advertising or the time and resources that it takes to do social media posting, and sort of the ever-changing environment that's going on, especially on these social media platforms. And I know that we're constantly reminded that really our website and by extension our email list, those are some of the only things that we really own when we're marketing. Instagram, the algorithm is constantly changing and making us do videos this day and stories the next, and paid advertising. The moment you stop paying for advertising, your advertising goes away. So search engine optimization is a really great long-term strategy where you can make edits and updates to your website one time and see the results and gain over time the benefits of that optimization. So it's a really great initial investment in your website, but it's also really valuable if you're selling on other platforms. So if you're selling on Etsy, if you're selling on Amazon, if you're promoting your products on Pinterest or YouTube, all of these are search engines as well. And so really by finding the right words that your audience and your clients are searching for and being able to incorporate that throughout your products, your website, and then promoting that across a variety of search engines, you're going to get a much longer lifespan on those marketing efforts than you would for any other platform.
And I really want to pull out one of the things she said here, guys, because I talk about this all the time. I talk all the time, Teddy, about having levels. You make this thing for your business, 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 until eventually those things are done. And now you can focus on something else. And that's more or less what Teddy just said. She almost said, although this isn't exactly true, that you can set it and forget it. She was like, you do it once and you're like done, right?
And yeah, and I always say there's the ability to, exactly, there's the ability to really do some kind of one-time optimization, and you will continue to see improvements over time. We generally, as a guideline, say, depending on how competitive your niche is, 3 to 12 months to see the full effect of any optimizations that you make. But it's really great because that way you can either get that one-time effort and continue to see results, or to really set yourself apart competitively if you do continue to review your data, look at your keywords, change and reflect on your keywords seasonally, depending on the types of items that you're creating and the products that you sell. There's a lot of ways to really differentiate yourself through search engine optimization and some of the related activities, but certainly you also can benefit from a one-time optimization, and those are yours, especially if you're paying someone to do the work on your site. Sometimes it can feel like, okay, I've paid this person, but now I'm really on the hook for ongoing support and constant redoing or fresh content. Whereas with SEO, whatever your SEO does, it's on your site and it's yours forever, and you truly own it in that sense. So again, regardless of whether you have the website, Etsy, some other search engine, which are actually more prolific than you would think when you think about Etsy, Amazon, Pinterest, YouTube, all of those that can sometimes feel like social media maybe are really search engines. So that same methodology can apply across a variety of platforms.
So just to be clear, I wasn't saying that they don't need continued SEO.
Sure.
when you have new products, you need to make sure you're on board, you're checking that stuff as well and everything. Yeah. Putting out long form content is really important to SEO strategy, of course. That's not what I'm saying, so I'm sorry if it came off that way.
No,
but at the same time, one is better than none, and it is getting you established.
Totally. Well, one-time effort on SEO is going to get you a lot farther than a one-time effort on Instagram or email marketing.
You post once on Instagram, that's nothing.
Exactly.
All right, so let's go to our next question. Okay, you ready, Teddy? Mm-hmm. So what aspect of technology, which is what this podcast is all about, overwhelms makers or e-commerce shop owners when they start trying to conquer SEO on their websites? What is the tech that gives people, like the heebie-jeebies?
Absolutely. Well, I think that a lot of the makers that I've certainly worked with and a lot of the e-commerce shop owners are very creative, passionate people who have started their businesses because they love what they do. And now all of a sudden they have to figure out how to run a website and set these things up. And it's like, what is analytics? I don't want to look at, the numbers and the spreadsheets. And so it can feel very overwhelming, even just in that sense. But in particular, there's a lot of people who believe that to be good at SEO, you have to be a coder. You have to be, a developer and know how to write code. And that's the only way to improve. And that's certainly not the case. There is, of course, a strong technical element to making sure that your site is functional and working properly and people have a great experience. But a lot of it is around really deeply understanding your clients and their wants and what it is that they're searching for, so that you can be the best solution to that search or that problem, whatever they're looking for through Google, that brings them to you. But also, even just while they're interacting with your business, what are the things that they are looking for and how can you best serve that through their experience on your website? So I think the code, the analytics, the data can sometimes feel very overwhelming, but really that's where there's some really amazing nuggets in learning more about your clients and what it is that they want, so that you can either adjust your business strategy, adjust the types of words that you're using on your website, and really be able to hone in and make the most of your marketing efforts there.
So I think, I have a lot of clients come to me and they're telling me, they're trying to figure out their own SEO. And they're like, which SEO keyword tool is the best one to use? And they're so caught up in, it has to be this specific keyword tool, it has to be this specific thing. And they get super overwhelmed with that kind of stuff, that aspect of it. And that's not even bringing into account the fact they have to know how to run their work their website. So now they have to know how to put it into their website.
I do that all day, every day. That's my whole job, is doing that. So to do that on top of a full-time job of really running your business, and certainly for makers actually making your products, that's a huge undertaking. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand why it can be kind of a lot. Like both of us, we spend our whole days on the computer doing all these analytics and type things. So for us, maybe, but I definitely have a lot of clients who really struggle with that, which is why it's so great to have someone who kind of knows how to do it themselves, so that you can kind of just get the help with that instead of having to try and conquer it yourself.
To that note on having the specific, keyword research tools, there are, of course, a lot of keyword research tools out there for free. I'd suggest looking at Ubersuggest. That's a really great one for finding new keywords. I'd also suggest, I believe SEMrush has the ability to run one free report on your website to see what are you currently ranking for. And really the best data, in my opinion, is your own data. So having Google Analytics installed, having Google Search Console set up, if you have a Google My Business profile, if you provide your, or sell your products locally, all of those resources are really valuable because it shows you what you're already ranking for, what people are searching for that are sending them to your website specifically. It's much more valuable than looking at sort of the more generic research tools where you're going to get overall average monthly search volumes, but even that can get very, again, overwhelming and confusing, because you might look at some keywords and think, oh, I want to go for that keyword that has, 1 million searches every month. That's the keyword I should target. When in reality, that's also probably going to be the most competitive keyword, and that's what you're going to have the hardest time to actually rank for. So it's not to say you shouldn't include it at all, but oftentimes looking at some of the more niche keywords where it's a more specific search, maybe, instead of tote bags, it could be like custom tote bags for bachelorette parties in Nashville. Something like that would be a great search term to be able to try to rank for, because it's so specific. And instead of competing against like Amazon and Walmart and some of these really big websites that will, easily outrank most smaller websites, by going for more targeted, niche, relevant keywords, that's where you're going to get a lot of that super valuable traffic, because people are looking for exactly what you have to sell. So really it's about looking at how relevant is this keyword to the product that I'm selling, or to, the content that's on the page that I'm wanting to promote.
Excellent tips there, guys. So there you go. I got a couple things pulled out of her where you can go and start looking at your keywords. So I actually think it's funny. So you said SEMrush. Is that how you're supposed to say it? Do you know, or is that just how you say it?
I've listened to their ads, and that's when they've said SEMrush, so that's what I use.
Okay, I always say SEMrush, and I've heard lots of other people say SEM.
I know it's like Hrefs,
HREFS, yeah.
No, it's like no one knows. There's no consensus really. But yes, I use. So yes, it's for anyone who's going to look it up. It is SEMrush. I say SEMrush.
I mean, I don't know. You said you heard it on a commercial. I don't think I've ever heard anyone on a commercial talk about it. So we're going to go with you're probably right. So there you go, guys. Okay, so this is like, now they really need to know. Now they're hooked. They know that you're right. They have to have SEO, right? Everybody knows you got to have it, right? Yes. Even though some of you who have been with me for a long time know that on multiple occasions I've said SEO is crap and don't do it.
No, don't say that.
It's because I had some really bad experiences with, some experts in SEO. But before we talk about that, we got one more question. What is the one thing that if everybody that's listening to this podcast or on my YouTube channel was going to implement today, what is the one thing that you would tell them to do?
I would definitely say looking at your data. And this can be what is already built in. Most people work off of like Shopify or Etsy, where there are those built-in analytics. Ideally, if you add in, again, that Google Search Console, I would almost say Google Search Console over Google Analytics, especially if you're only looking from an organic perspective, because they have that amazing keyword data. And really the best way to continue to grow and make the most of any marketing efforts you have is by understanding where are people coming from and what are they searching for to find you and how is it performing? Because if you're spending a ton of money on Google Ads, or you're posting every day to Instagram, or you're blogging like crazy and you want to see, am I making an impact with the marketing that I'm doing? The best way to do that is to own your own data and really be able to look and see how long are people staying, how many users are coming, and making sure that you're making the most of time, resources, money, whatever you're pouring into your marketing. So especially from an organic perspective, it can be a really great way to see new opportunities where maybe you're ranking for a keyword and getting lots of impressions, but not a lot of clicks. And so that could give a new product idea. It could give you an idea of how to sort of reframe or rejig a current page that you have, being able to really take a look. And Google does try to make it pretty user-friendly, especially on the Search Console side of things. Thankfully, it's pretty straightforward as far as exploring in there, but really owning and being able to track and measure your own data is a very powerful way to grow your business long-term.
So what about those people who maybe get 100 to 200 visitors to their website in a month and aren't really getting a lot of data from things like Google?
Even a couple hundred people a month, I think you can still get meaningful enough data, simply because if you're only getting, very small, proportion of people coming to your website, then it's probably a niche product or service where it isn't necessarily.
Yeah. Or their marketing just isn't there. But
yeah, and in that case, then I would switch into more of that front end keyword research and seeing, are we including the keywords that people are searching for that are related to our product? So that's where I go into the Uber Suggest, SEM, SEMrush, lots of different free tools online. Even if the numbers are not 100% exact, it gives you a good idea of how generally popular or relevant a particular keyword is for your shop, and then making sure that you're actually incorporating that. I've seen in a lot of creative businesses, both for product and e-commerce, but also for service-based businesses, where very creative people will write their site copy. There's a lot of description without really saying anything. So I think also being quite explicit in the types of products that you create, any differentiators. So let's say you do you sell soaps and you make soaps. Are they vegan? Are they handmade? Are they, natural essential oils? Are they exfoliating? Whatever that might be, using descriptors and an exact match keyword for the product that you are creating, that's going to be a really great way to start to rank for some of those exact keywords, as well as some related keywords there. And I think also, especially in the naming of products, I've seen this on a lot of e-commerce sites. People will have the Aria and the Ophelia, and it's what is that? Is that a tote bag? Is that a sweater? Is that a hat? So being a little bit more explicit and really using those keywords in a way that helps the user better understand what is it that I'm looking at, and also helps Google understand what is on this page. How can we best serve that to people who are searching for that type of product?
Okay, so guys, we kind of had two different action steps depending upon where you're at, which is something that I have a tendency to do a lot of when I teach. So this is totally a very Elise thing to have happen. Everybody should go look at Google Analytics and the Search Console, regardless. Mm-hmm. But if you get there and you're not finding a lot of results, which I have happened a lot of times when I do analytics review calls with my clients, which is why I brought it up, then the next step is to go and do some generic keyword research to find out maybe what keywords you may be missing, and making sure you're not doing that thing that we all creatives seem to like to do, myself included, giving cutesy names to things and no one understands what you're talking about. Does that about sum up what we said?
Yeah, basically that's it. And really, I think that those are both valuable things, I should say, for anyone at any stage. You really should be doing both of those. Research your keywords. And then again, like I'd mentioned earlier, for some people that might be a one-time thing, for some people that might be a seasonal thing. And then making sure that you feel comfortable with your analytics and diving in there. I promise it's not as scary as it seems once you take a poke around, but it really does help to, better direct your marketing efforts and can help you make really good business decisions in general.
So Teddy, do you have a analytics specific type of call or help that you offer with your business?
I do. Well, I have certainly hourly consulting if someone has a specific question. We also do audits. And as a part of our on-site optimization packages, we make sure that Google Analytics and Google Search Console is installed and is tracking everything correctly. So we always start with a foundation of data, making sure that we're collecting that so we can see any changes or improvements, but also again, so that people long-term can really feel ownership over their data.
Okay. And then I also have an analytics review call Teddy's review, I'm sure, is certainly highly focused on SEO. Mine will have some SEO aspects to it, but a lot of it will be about other things. I work a lot with psychology of the shopper, so most of my stuff is going to be geared around that. So there's either way you can go to try and get some help with your analytics. If you're looking for SEO specific help, Teddy is probably going to be the one to do that. I mean, I just admitted that for a long time I told my clients it was stupid. So I do know about SEO. I have a baseline understanding, but if you really want SEO help, there's a reason Teddy's here today. So go to her for sure. We have one more little question. I feel like we're running close on time. Teddy, you think we have a couple more minutes? Okay. All right. So I have a pet peeve about SEO, which I've been sort of alluding to this entire time. And Teddy and I talked about it, so I already had permission to bring it up. So I work with a lot of clients revamping their websites to get better sales conversion, right? That's, more or less what all of this is about. Conversion rate optimization, SEO, all of these are about getting higher conversions. And because of that, I work with a lot of clients who have hired someone to help them with their SEO, an SEO expert. And what ends up happening is their site is really full of copy everywhere. It gets to the point where you go to their shop page and I can't even see any products because the whole thing is like a page of text. And I feel like I'm really constantly battling with my clients about making their website shoppable, which is required if you want to get purchases, versus having a lot of copy everywhere that will hopefully help with search engine optimization. Now, I've never worked with one of your clients before, so this is not a reflection on you, but I'm curious what your approach to SEO in the website is. Does copy rule as king, like you're only going to focus on making sure that I have a lot of keywords everywhere? Or does shoppability and making sure that they can actually see my products count?
Absolutely. Well, I was mentioning earlier, I can't tell you how many SEO experts I've gone in and sort of done a cleanup after as well. And I think that sort of keyword and content stuffing comes from a lot of the origins of SEO, where really above all else, it was how many times can you include a keyword, and that's what makes you most relevant. Now and moving forward with each algorithm update, we're seeing that Google is prioritizing the user experience over almost everything else. Certainly we want to have, our keywords included so that Google still understands what our page is about, but things like site loading time, things like, user experience and interstitial, so are things popping up and confusing people? Are they having to scroll for a really long time to actually get to your content? All of these elements play into how competitive you are in the SEO landscape as well. So definitely, as with all marketing, really, nothing is an island. Nothing exists on its own. You can't just do an SEO on your website and not think about user experience or conversion rate optimization in a similar way that, you can't build a website without thinking about SEO. So all of these things come together, and really I focus on making a website amazing for robots and people. We want to make sure that the robots know what's going on when Google crawls your site and looks at your page content. It understands what your page is about. It sees that you are competitively different than the other people who are trying to rank for this, and that you are the most relevant and best result. But we also want to make sure that when someone lands on your website, they can access your products, they can view your images, they can read easily product descriptions or understand what a collection is about if they were to land there directly. So it's definitely a marriage of the two, where if you have just one or just the other, that's where you're not going to see results. So you have to make sure that it considers both, because both of those groups, the robots and the humans, are both going to be using your page. So it's definitely a compromise of the two.
Completely agree. I'm there with you. I always tell my people they have to be succinct. That's one of my favorite words. You have to be succinct. You were talking about how creatives especially like to make these big, massive stories, and they say a lot without saying anything. And this is something that I personally see with my clients quite a lot. And I'm like, be succinct, be succinct. I tell them, you have to tell me what you do in 5 words or less. If it takes you more than 5 words, no, you're done. You have to be able to tell me, I make this for this or whatever, right? In 5 words or less, that's all the time you have. You can't tell me a 4-page essay about, your particular thing. You have to be able to be very succinct. But at the same time, what Teddy was saying during this call, so again, we have to have that dichotomy because I don't like having anything be straight, is that when you're doing your keywords, it's really important to kind of elaborate as much as possible. in Tennessee, what was your example? You said if you make soap.
Totes for bachelorette parties in Nashville.
That's very explicit. That was the word that you used. But at the same time, even though it's explicit, it's still as few words as possible to say that. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And people are looking for that match when they search for a particular item, when they search for a particular thing, when they go to your page, they expect to see something that mirrors what they have searched for, or else they're going to get confused, say, I don't know what this is. I searched for, these tote bags, and here I am, learning a story about someone's life and, their passion for making. And it's like, that's not 100% the connection there. So that's where you get people leaving, bouncing off of your site, and that can impact your rankings. So you want to always be thinking, how relevant is this? Are we creating a string where people will come from Google onto the page, say our collections page, and then go into the product, and all of these things are related and they seem like they're consistent in a similar way that we approach our branding. We wouldn't use different colors and fonts on our Instagram than our website, than our emails, because people are going to get confused. So,
and if you just heard that and went, what? You should not be doing that.
Yeah. I know this is not a call about branding because that is not my area of expertise, but I know at least enough that, creating that consistency and that predictability that when someone clicks, they know what they're going to see and they know what they're going to find.
Okay, so Teddy, I have just one more question for you. It's sort of a question, sort of not. When one of the biggest faux pas I see when it comes to talking about SEO is that people think SEO is just keywords. And you sort of alluded to this earlier when we were talking about this, but this is one of the reasons that for so long I had this knee-jerk reaction of, I hate SEO, is because it was like the only thing that matters is your keywords, put as many keywords as possible, make it as much content as possible on every page. That is what SEO seems to be for a really long time. And SEO is not that. And you sort of talked about it a little bit. I want to make sure that it was really clear for my audience, because sometimes I've noticed, we kind of miss things. SEO has to do with site speed.
Yes.
SEO has to do with, go for it. Tell us what else.
SEO has to do with your content being able to be found. So a lot of times people will create pages, and just because you create that page doesn't actually mean that it's on Google, certainly not right away, and sometimes not ever. So if your content is not original, not very good quality, or your website is very, very new, then your website and your web page might not even actually be in the index. So certainly there is, a user experience component, having that site speed. There's been new sort of qualifications coming out for the ranking algorithm around that user experience, specifically on mobile and general mobile friendliness. But, how long does it take the largest image on your site to load? How long, is the page jumping around when it's loading, because there's a lot of different elements. So certainly from that usability and user perspective, that is something that is very important. But then the actual indexing and crawling of your site is a really big part of your SEO success, because even if you have all the keywords in the world, if you're not in the index, then you're not going to show up. And I sort of use the analogy of almost like a Harry Potter library. So whenever you Google any, search term, it's not searching the whole internet every single time. It has an index or a library of all of the web pages that it has already looked at, read, and decided that it's relevant for a given search term. And so there are these actual robots called spiders, and they crawl through the internet, and the webs are the links between websites and pages. And that's how Google actually finds your content. So if nothing is linking to your website, there's no web to your pages, then the spiders aren't going to find it. If they go to, your book and they open it up and they see that, there's no index, there's no, titles, there's no page numbers, and they're like, this is a mess, I'm going to move on. You have to make it easy for the spiders to understand and to find you. And only then will you become a part of the library that is Google. So there's also that strong technical aspect in making sure that that's actually live, but certainly user experience is a huge part of it. And moving forward only becomes more and more important. And I know a lot of people do get nervous with, algorithm changes and thinking, oh gosh, my page is going to, do really poorly if the algorithm changes. But the best way to algorithm proof your website is to always keep your users front of mind. So if you're including a keyword, It should be because it makes it easier for a person who's on your website to understand what your page is about, not to simply stuff it in 100 times just to make sure that it's showing up for Google, because that's where you're going to get penalized in those algorithm updates. So really, if you're approaching SEO and the writing of your website content and building out your product pages with people first, that's going to align with how Google, eventually updates their algorithm, as they do, hundreds, but in fact, several major times per year.
Yes, exactly. Yes, 100%. So remember, search engine optimization is not just keywords, although keywords, of course, do play a large role in search engine optimization. But I think that is when I finally started to come to terms with the fact that this is not just go put as many keywords as possible.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, okay, I can kind of get on board with this. You're taking into account the psychology of the shopper now. We're talking about all these other things. Okay, we can start talking about SEO just a little bit. In fact, search keywords and things are the very first floor of the e-commerce elevator. So I personally have come a full 360 when it comes to my opinion of SEO. And hopefully you can either adjust what you think SEO is if you personally think it's just keywords and come with me on that journey, or you can take that turn just like I did and realize this is about more than just putting as many keywords as possible into a page and starting to implement some of these other tactics. For those of you who are not as strong analytically or tech-wise, since that's what this channel is all about, having someone come and help you, come alongside you and help you with that stuff is the way to go. Because if you just don't get those things, you're not going to be able to do as good of a job as someone who does. That's just the reality. I'm sorry, I don't mean for that to be ugly or mean, but it's just the truth. That's like, I remember when I was in high school, I had a friend who did not understand math. She just didn't. It just wasn't in her wheelhouse. And math and science to me were like, whatever. I didn't have to study. I didn't have to anything. It just all made sense all the time. And I tutored her. And there was some stuff she was just never really going to get. You had to go, okay, I can learn, I can teach her these things. I can help her with these things and she can learn these things and she can definitely do better. But she was never going to be as good at it as I was. And that's not me having a big head. That's just reality. Everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. And sometimes you have to just admit, this is not my strength. I'm going to have someone who actually knows what they're doing do it instead. Or you may have to admit, I don't have the time.
Yes, huge. Huge. That's most of the people that I work with are busy entrepreneurs who know that it's important. They know they need to do it, but instead of spending, what would take weeks of dedicated time to be able to just get the foundations, it's much easier. When most people work with me, I'd say it takes all in less than 2 hours of their time between onboarding, saying, yes, I like those keywords. Yes, I like those optimizations. And then reading the final report, it completely takes it off their plate. And that's where a lot of the value is in working with someone that you truly partner with. And again, you feel educated and empowered. You should never feel scared or overwhelmed when you're working with someone. That's our job, to make it not that way for you. But that's the huge benefit really, is in that time savings and allowing you to focus on what you love in your business. I think all of us, when we start a business, it's because we love something. And then all of a sudden it's like, now I'm the bookkeeper and the marketer and the SEO. And I really want to focus in on what I love doing and what I'm passionate about in my business, and hand something over to a person who's also passionate about that thing, lives and breathes it every day, and can really implement it and make sure that you're getting the best result for your time, resources, and energy.
Yeah, I talk to e-commerce owners all the time, and typically where I see the shift between being really profitable and not being profitable actually comes down to when they start to invest in someone else doing stuff for them. And it's because not only do they maybe not have the skill, it's also a time thing. Like you said, if you have to invest 2 months in learning every single thing that has to be done for your business, it's going to take you 20 years to get your business off the ground.
Yeah. And if you even do it, I know I've purchased
or
many
you'll give up
and started things where I'm like, I'm going to learn this. And then it's like, this is really overwhelming. And okay, I'll do that next week. And then it never gets done.
Or you give up and some basic part of your business never gets established. And that is one of the things that's holding you back from success. So this isn't meant to be a sales thing. I'm not trying to like shove this down your throat, but it's just something that I see time and time again with my clients is we have to sometimes go, I just can't do that for one reason or another. I can't do that thing. I can do all these other things, but I can't do that thing, and then hand it off to someone else. And I do that in my own business. I mean, I am really good at video editing, but do you know how long it takes to do video editing?
Yeah.
So I just go, well, I can have 2 hours of Elise time doing things that only Elise can do. So for you, that might be making your thing. Or I can spend 2 hours editing this video and not get to do those Elise things, right? So I mean, that's the big thing is, do you want to do the stuff that you love, or do you want to do the stuff that you don't love?
Yeah. Yeah. I always say it's like the joy of outsourcing. Like that was my favorite part where, I hit a certain level in my business where I'm like, I don't have to do my own bookkeeping. I can bring someone else on to help, or even within marketing, social media, like that's not my forte. So, being able to partner with people who are really exceptional at what they do and love what they do and bring that passion and that excitement and be able to learn from each other and expand your own horizons. It's a really great opportunity to partner with someone.
Exactly. All right. Well, Teddy, this has been really, really great. So for those of you who don't know, may not realize, we actually stopped and then came back because we had to talk about more stuff. So I'm really glad we came back and kind of touched point on that SEO thing a little bit more. If our listeners want to know more about you, or if they need more help with SEO, how can they find you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on Instagram at Searchlight Digital, or you can come to my website, searchlightmarketing.ca. I'm always trying to share helpful tips, strategies, and I love to connect with people over there. So I'd love to see you.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming to join us. Make sure to go check out Teddy. Searchlightmarketing.ca is her website, and Instagram.com/searchlightdigital. And in case you want to know spelling, just in case you just don't know, SEARCHLIGHT is how you spell Searchlight. And I will also, of course, put a link in the description of this video or podcast episode, depending upon where you're watching us. So Teddy, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. And guys, go check her out if you need help with your SEO.
Thanks so much.
Bye. If you like what we're doing here at Tech-Challenged Makers Conquer Ecommerce, and it's helping you gain clarity and direction in your business, you should check out Elise's e-commerce elevator. In this 6-month group coaching program, I'll guide you through the ins and outs of building a business for purchase conversion. You'll also get to join up with a small group of other e-commerce shop owners who are focused on building exponential growth and reaching the right audience. Head over to myschedulebiz.com/elevator and join us. We welcome a limited number of new members every 6 months, and by signing up today, you'll reserve your spot. Thanks for listening. See you next week right here on Tech-Challenged Makers Conquer Ecommerce.